There's one that I'm currently still in. The story's still to be told, and it's not a bad deal. I just went too heavy in it, right? Like I just cut too big of a check in it. And but these things that I've learned over the past 17 years, all I look at it as is what I know now. For the next 20 years, I'm about to be a killer in the investment game.
Welcome to Beyond the Game, Wealth Mastery for Athletes. I'm Kris Benson, private equity real estate investor, and I'm joined by 9-year NFL vet Alec Ogletree. Beyond the Game is a podcast where we will provide a playbook for financial growth both on and off the field. Join us each week as we'll have in-depth conversations with other pro athletes as they walk us through how they've created wealth beyond the game, both on and off the field. They're going to share their triumphs, lessons learned, and setbacks along the way so that you don't make the same mistakes. Join us. I think you're going to have a lot of fun. All right, guys. Today we have with us Anthony Tolliver. Anthony, pleasure. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thanks for having me.
Hey. Yes, sir. Appreciate you coming on, Anthony. I guess we'll kind of go ahead and just kick it off. You know, what we was talking about a little bit before the show was you mentioned it, you know, the expectation versus like, you know, having that actual like hard cold facts over like being like, okay, this guy, like, what's his name? Otani? That's how you say his name?
I think so. Yeah. Yep.
They just pay him $700 million. Mm-hmm. Like the Dodgers are all in on this guy, and the expectation is, to me, and the Dodgers are like, he's gonna bring us a world championship at the end of the day.
Yep.
And you know, but does that happen? You never know. You gotta.
We'll see.
You gotta go out there and play,
yep.
Right? So we kind of talked about that a little bit about, you know, the expectations. So just kind of tell me what was your thoughts on your career, like how you grew up, where you came from, you know, kind of the expectation, what it was like for you.
Gotcha. Really quick, I got to point out one thing. Him and Mookie Betts, their payroll, just them two, is more than the entire Miami Marlins team, by the way. Two players.
Two players.
That's, man, I would love to be one of them two. Like, you talk about expectations. That point, bro, I mean, hey, I'd love to be on that side of things, right? Like,
yeah.
I'd rather have expectations and have it be hard on that side than on the other side of paycheck to paycheck trying to grind, right? But I mean, the paycheck to paycheck trying to grind is really the story of my career. And, you know, just going back to high school, college, and playing professionally, I always say this, and people never really believe me. They always ask me more questions like, how, what? I was never the best player on my team growing up. Like middle school, high school, which probably tells you a little bit about my middle school and high school, right? They're pretty good players.
Kickapoo High School in Missouri.
That's right. Kickapoo High School.
Springfield?
Springfield, Missouri. Yeah.
I lived in St. Charles.
Yeah.
I was out there in St. Charles, Missouri.
You're St. Charles. Yeah. So,
yeah.
But Kickapoo, we had a really good high school team. Senior year went 30-1, 12th in the country. Like, so I've always played with really good teams and really good players. Getting to college, same thing. Really good team, tournament a couple times. But, you know,
Did you know, Anthony? Did you know growing up, like, this was the path?
Basketball
was the play? Yeah. Or were you playing other
Since
sports
I was
as well?
5, I was like, I played other sports, but it was to develop for basketball. So football, I played football so that I could get tougher, so I could play physical for basketball. Ran track so I get faster for basketball. You know, basically everything I did was geared around how do I improve my skills on the court. Because I was all in from 5 years old. I was sacrificing time playing video games and doing other things other people wanted to do. I was already putting in the work and I'm going to get my shots up. Then I'll meet you over there, but I'm going to shoot for 20, 30 minutes first. Right. So just kind of like those daily consistent, just staying with it, like just believing that the process was going to work out, that the daily, daily deposits.
What to say, Kris? The 10,000 hour rule.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Put your time in.
The daily. It was the daily, and it was never about, hey, I'm about to go shoot for 3 hours, 4 hours. It was, hey, I need to get my daily 20 in, like the daily 20. There's a daily 20 minutes, like. It was all about that. Like I get my daily 20. Now I could go shoot for longer. I could go play basketball or hang out and jack around, but 20 minutes of focused time and preparation was kind of like my
I love
motto,
that idea,
15,
Anthony. Every week though, that's 140 minutes of shooting that somebody else didn't do, and it stacks. Right? That's
focused. I'm talking like
one thing.
You're like, hey, you are
dialed in,
like. And it's not too much to ask whenever you're younger. Now, when I got older, of course, that increased, right? But that 20 minutes became what am I doing extra? Like when I was in the pros, it was 20 minutes post-practice, locked in, focused on whatever I need to focus on. That was it. Then I'm out, right? Because you start doing 2-3 hours, all of a sudden you're going to be worn out. You're going to be getting injuries, all that. 20 minutes, right? And so just from middle school, high school, college, it was always about that. But my expectations were actually pretty low. Nobody thought I was going to make it, right? I went to football school.
Wait, I have a question, Anthony. Where'd that come from? So where did the mindset of I'm going to stack minutes, right? And this could be applied to almost anything in your life. It doesn't just have to be athletics, but was that a mentor, a coach? Or was that just ingrained in you, part of your DNA?
I wish I could say it was, hey, I learned it from an OG, told me when I was young that you just stack these, minutes together. All of a sudden it's going to be something that compounds and everything else. But it was just a concept that, from a pretty young age, I've always kind of been a little bit wiser beyond my years. When I was growing up, I was always thinking ahead and always thinking about the future and always thinking about what I wanted to accomplish. But, I was always thinking like, every day, what am I doing every single day to get closer to my dreams? That was like a mindset I could develop from a very young age. And I still had fun. I still was a kid, still built forts and, did all the stuff that everybody else rode bikes around town. I was always focused on getting my time and my work in every day. Just at some point, early, late, middle of the day, it didn't matter. Just some point, just towards that one, I had one single goal, make it to the NBA. And it was just like, hey, what am I doing every single day to get there? So that's where, it didn't come from any person, just was something that I developed the mindset very early that was going to be what was going to separate me.
So you was speaking on, the expectation part.
Yeah.
I guess I want you to finish what you were going to say.
Yeah. So on the expectations, I don't know. Some people shy away from expectations because it puts pressure on them. And I can understand that. I've seen it. I've seen people crushed by expectations, and I'm sure you guys have too. Not just in sports, but in life. Father passes down a company to a son. The expectation is, you're going to be as good or better than your dad. It's like, well, shoot, same thing happens in sports. Maybe it's not lineage. Maybe it's just expectation because of what they, one sports writer wrote one time. King James, right? Like, oh, he's the next one. He's a chosen one. Well, he met them expectations. He beat them expectations. But we've seen Kwame Brown, right? Like he had a solid NBA career. People dog him, but he was solid. He wasn't what they thought he was supposed to be, but he was
Bill, you made it.
Right. You
made it. It ain't easy to make it.
10 plus years.
It's not
10 plus years in the NBA as a solid player, bro. Like, he wasn't a superstar, so he didn't meet expectations. But it doesn't mean you can't be solid. Like, you can't, he's a success story, put it that way.
Yeah.
But, these expectations can really, really messed people up. For me, I didn't have any. So I was able to play free. Everybody expected me to, maybe he'll play college basketball. Maybe he might play overseas or something like that. But, no real expectations to make it to the NBA. I think I was probably the only person on the planet that thought I was going to play in the NBA. And then, things happened, got opportunity, got in there. And guess what? When I got in there, there's people like, oh, that's dope. He made it. But he's probably not going to play. Like he's probably just going to get in there, maybe collect a check for a year or two, and he's probably going to play overseas.
Yeah.
So the expectations really weren't ever there. And every single year it was a fight to just get on the court. And so I was always the underdog. So I was the opposite of, with these big contracts. I was always fighting to get something, to get a minute on the court, always fighting. And so I was kind of the identity of my career was this no expectations. So shoot, I played free. I've always played free, and it really worked to my advantage.
And I think too, I kind of look at it like kind of two different types of expectation. Like there's an expectation of whatever other people have of you or have of us or whatever. But then there's an expectation, like for me, is like when I do stuff, like when I was out there playing, like I expected to make that play or make that tackle or whatever. That's just what I thought of myself.
Yep.
And I'm sure you is the same. Like that's why you kept it. You like, man, no, like I'm going my 20 minutes. I'm getting there. I expect to make these shots, these amount of shots or whatever in this. If I get out here on the court and I expect to play. Like I walk into the if I'm here, I'm expecting to be out there and contribute, and just because of myself, not necessarily what other people might think of it.
Yep.
Yes, we all hear the noise in a sense, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, but at the same time,
the
expectation was set high from you. Like
absolutely,
I forgot what that is. The little quote what they been saying. They nowadays, who said that? Who said that?
Look it up, Alec, and we'll just have the editors fit it in so that you remember right on cue.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up.
The thing I think with expectation from the outside looking in, right, is it's a privilege in some cases, because if people have expectation of you, like I talk about this with my kids, is like, yes, as a dad, I love you, but I do have expectations. And it's a privilege to have expectations, because otherwise people don't think you got anything, right?
Yep.
Like that, you're a bag of, well, I won't use the word, but you have no opportunity, or people don't believe you have opportunity, and you can use that as motivation too. But I always looked at it, and obviously never playing at the level that you guys did, but when people put expectation on me, that was always a motivation of, well, he thinks I can do it, so I think I can do it. Like Alec, you had it internal. I think there's always that balance between what you have inside and then other people and how you use that as fuel.
Yeah. Personal expectations, that's the beauty of it all, right? The whole journey. I had higher expectations of myself than anybody else had, right? So that's the reason why I was able to perform. It wasn't because of expectations of others. Like I told you, I didn't really have expectations of others. Like they did not expect anything. Like they didn't expect me to make it. So, but I expected to make it, and I expected to play, and I expected to last 10 plus years. So my expectations, right, are what set my my journey, like that, my future, my path was set by my expectations. If I allowed other people's expectations to set my path, you know what would happen? I might have played D1 basketball, and then I would have got a job and been a outstanding citizen, right? Like that would have been my life, and that's there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, that wasn't my expectation. I expected to do what I needed to do to play professional basketball in the NBA for a very long time, and I did that. So I exceeded my own expectations of myself, right? And so when people, now, the internet, right? Internet's crazy. You got trolls. You got people like, oh yeah, you know, blah blah blah. You were trash when you played this, that, and the third. Like they talk crap to me now. Them, you know, retired.
I was like, dude, I ain't even playing no more. Like, what are you
I
talking
was like,
about? I don't even care.
it's like when I played, there's all those trolls, and then when you're not playing, there's always trolls, right? Like so, I'm like it doesn't matter your opinion. Like your opinion really matters like zero, right? Like because it's you weren't making the decisions on cutting checks.
Yeah.
If you were, then your opinion would have mattered, which then would have affected my pocketbooks and my family's pocketbooks, right? So, but since you're not the GM that signed me to my contracts, then it's like, I mean, your opinion's great. That's your opinion. I don't really care that you don't think I'm very good. Other people did.
Say opinions are like assholes. Everybody got one.
Exactly. And they all stink.
We're going to have that as your social media quote, Anthony. That's going to be your social media lead for this episode. I think, so Anthony, as we shift to, look, your career was wild, right? You played for 11 different franchises, which I don't know if you know, but ties you for the 6th all time in the NBA as far as how many franchises you played for, which is the thing that I always think about with guys who have a career like that is you had a lot of people telling you no, you know, like, hey, you're not good enough. We don't want you this year and you got to go find work elsewhere. Mindset wise, you talked about the expectation of it, but how did that affect you? Because you got to be pretty mentally strong to hear no 10 times in a row and still say, yeah, but I'm good enough. You know, I can continue to play.
Yeah, well, that's one perspective. Another perspective is I heard 11 yeses, and four teams said yes twice. That's maybe one of the biggest compliments you can have is you're on a team. Maybe something doesn't work out for them to sign you the following year, but then they bring you right back a couple of years later. That to me that speaks more of reality than just, hey, you know, we're doing some shifting around and you know, we don't have space or we don't have the money. And sometimes it wasn't even about space, it was about money, right? Like sometimes the team didn't have enough money to pay me because I played well. So now I got to go somewhere else because they have the money, right? And so to me, it was like, it wasn't always, hey, or I guess I heard you weren't, you know, hey, we're cutting you or whatever. I heard that plenty of times in my career. But, you know, out of those 11 teams or whatever it may be, it wasn't always the case where it was, hey, we just don't have space for you. Sometimes it was just circumstance. But the fact that these teams brought me back multiple times, 4 of them, just kind of told me, hey, it wasn't about them not wanting me. It's just that it didn't fit at that moment. As soon as they had a chance to bring me back, they did. And so, it's all perspective on that, in my opinion, on that, because if you look at it from the negatives, you can make anything negative, man. Like, I mean, that's how I look at life. You can make so many things negative, but you choose to look at the positive and find the positive. And at least I do. Like I try to find the positive in everything. And that's how I viewed it. And that's how I was able to hear, hey, we don't have enough space for you this year or whatever, but on the other end of that was this team saying, oh man, we love to have you. That's what I focused on. Yeah. Not the, hey, this doesn't work out.
Oh, you have to. That's so true. I mean, it's anybody that plays sports or whatever. I mean, obviously, I think in the workforce, I guess in the regular world, doesn't typically work like that. Usually, Kris, they may be like, "Oh, you're not performing well. Yes, we're going to fire you in a sense." But like Anthony just said, sometimes just be like, "Oh man, we just can't afford to pay you right now. You gotta go over here. Okay, go over here, make some money. Not that you're not good enough or whatever." So I totally understand that.
Well, just really quick on that, like I know if you allow other people's opinion to define your worth, then you're always going to be struggling. You're not going to be like mentally. You can't play professional basketball. You can't play professional football. You can't play professional sports. And you really can't perform at a high level in corporate America if other people's opinions define your confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so when somebody said, "Oh, we're gonna cut you," I'm like, "Bitch, your loss, bro." I'm nice.
I'm a be straight.
Bro, next time, when I see you next time, I'm coming after you. You know what I'm saying?
I'm about to give it to you.
Whoever you line up in front of me, right? Like you have to have an irrational expectation and confidence in yourself.
Exactly.
To be a high level leader, you can't be a CEO being like, "Oh man, I hope that everybody likes me," and and "Oh man, my confidence, I don't know." Heck, what type of CEO do you've ever seen be like that? Like, I don't know about myself.
They ain't a CEO.
Like this is what
it's not the CEO.
I am really good at my job. I am really good at my job, and you feel that, like,
yeah.
And so when people said you're cut, I'm just like, bet I'm going somewhere else, and I'm about to kill y'all.
Gonna get this work.
Right.
So I had a question too about, I guess, how does an NBA contract necessarily work? So like most of us are under the impression that all NBA contracts are guaranteed. I don't know if that's true or not true. If it's something that you could speak on, love to hear about it.
So not all guaranteed. Not every contract's guaranteed.
Okay.
I would say a vast majority are. And then what's tricky is what gets reported a lot of times is not necessarily accurate. Not necessarily on the number, because a lot of times the number is pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But the terms of contracts do not get disclosed very often in the NBA. So when you see somebody sign, oh man, they signed 3 years, $35 million. Wow, like out here, sign a nice contract. The first year might be fully guaranteed. The second year might be half guaranteed, and the third year might be non-guaranteed. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's dates in which, for the second year, if you make it to such and such date, it becomes fully guaranteed. Then the third year is a team option. So the team option comes with another date. That date, you have to make it to that date to get that third year. Right.
Yeah.
So that's not every contract. Right. But I would say way more contracts than people think are set up in like with those types of structures. Just because you see a number and you see an amount of years does not mean that person's necessarily getting all that money in all those years. It's just a matter of, every contract is negotiable.
Negotiable.
You make it happen.
All them terms.
Now, Kobe was like, hey, I want, out of my $30 million contract, I want $24 million up front on September 1st.
Yeah. And
they're like, bet. And so he got, whatever, like it's, whatever you wanted, like that's what you want. All right, cool. Like the teams don't like doing that. They're only going to do that for the guys who can negotiate that. You got negotiating power. Players. You can. But yeah, best players, they can kind of get whatever they want. Oh, I want that, and I want them front row seats too. Like for my family, bet you in there, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of negotiate whatever you want. But yeah, it's they're all individually kind of negotiated, but at the same time, it's. Majority of them are guaranteed, though.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that sounds about like our contracts, too. Like, they'd be like, if you're on the team at the start of this league year, you get this amount guaranteed, or you on the team by this date, whatever. Like, I had incentives in mind where if we were, like, top 5 in defense, or we made the playoffs, we gave us so many points throughout this year.
Yeah.
I would get a bonus. But like that was technically like part of the guarantee. Those are like, little terms they put in there where, okay, if you accomplish this, yes, this money's guaranteed for you. But it's not really like as soon as you sign that dotted line, oh, this is all guaranteed.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
No, it's not gonna work like that. And I missed those bonuses too because they sat us. So I'm still pissed about that.
That's the thing about bonuses. My agent specifically for my whole career would negotiate, get to a number, then they would be like, oh, yeah, well, we can get a higher number. We throw these bonuses in of, let's just say, $1 million. There's $1 million we can do in bonuses. Like if he does this 3-point percentage or this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's great. Well, if y'all have the capability of paying $5 million instead of $4 million, how about we do $4.5 million guaranteed, no bonuses? And they're like, a lot of times they'd be like, oh, okay. So that was always his strategy, is like, get the number as high as you can, negotiate, like start talking about bonuses, and then basically seeing like what they're capable of paying, right? And then just try to get as much guaranteed money as you can. Because in bonuses, man, like they can be manipulated. You can manipulate them too. Like I saw Mo Harkless, just probably a decade ago. He had a bonus in his contract for about $500,000 if he shot 36% or higher from three for the year. He had to make a certain amount. He had to shoot a certain amount, but 36% was his number. There was 5 games left or something like that in the season. He was shooting 36.3, right? He missed one. Playing. He missed the 3, right? And that bumped him down to 36.1. Tell me why he didn't shoot another 3 the rest of the year. Right? Like 5 games.
Step over the line.
I'm talking wide open 3. One fake, one dribble, jump. Step on the line on purpose. Jumper. Like, no more 3. I'm not shooting another one. Getting that $500,000.
I'm getting that, man. I'm getting that. I need that. What are you talking about? I need that.
Listen, like on the other side of the thing, like you said, like teams, if they know that you're close to your minutes joint or whatever, like, let's go ahead. Let's send him out. Let's put the young boy in. We need minutes, right? Like, nah, that could be manipulated. So
big time.
When he was doing that, I was watching some of those games and like, yes, get that bread. Like, I loved it. I was like, that's genius, because I was like, bro, they do that to players all the time. Especially in football. So I was like,
all the time. Man, I seen it. I was watching some video or something, I think, the other day, and I think it was Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. He was like, hey, dog, I need one more catch to get this $1 million.
Yep.
Or this bonus or whatever, to meet this bonus. Send it back out there. Oh, okay, get him the ball real quick.
Yep.
No, it'd be a real thing.
Real.
Dudes had those incentives in there.
Yeah, my agent was
incentives drive behavior.
Let's not play that game. Let's just get as much guaranteed money as possible. And then move on. Like, let's not worry about
keep your hands clean.
Right.
It's as clean. It's way cleaner because, like you said, you fall into those bonuses and they start playing. They start doing funny stuff, and it's like, dude.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now I'm at this bonus. I'm about to hit this bonus. Now y'all want to start acting funny, doing all this.
Yeah.
It really happens for sure.
Anthony, when you were at Creighton, so take us back there, right? You believed you had a shot at the NBA. Were you getting recruited? I mean, scouts and guys telling you were going to be, because you came out undrafted, but did you have a shot?
I had a late push to get drafted. Going through my first 3 years, like I wasn't on any draft boards or there was no expectations of me getting drafted or playing in the NBA, period. Right. Senior year, played really well again. My junior year, I played well. My senior year, I played well again. But the thing that actually got me on the boards, in college, I played the 5. I played center. I was shooting jump hooks, blocking shots, and rebounding. That was my job. But I knew in the league that wasn't going to be my job. I was 6'8". Like, I'm not playing center at 6'8". In today's NBA, you probably could be getting away with that. But back then, it was like, nah, I can't play center. They got Pau Gasol and Andrew Bynum and all these 7-footers down there, big 300-pound 7-footers. I'm like, there's no way, right? So all my work went into shooting threes and going off the dribble and stuff like that. Well, with that, it was all right. Well, at Creighton, I'm not Creighton. I don't have the ability to change my role. I got to finish my 4 years. I gotta go do what I need to do for my team to win. And so I did that. Well, after I was done, season was over, got knocked out in the tournament. I get invited to Portsmouth, which is in Virginia. It's like a all seniors, like pre-draft type of camp, but it's not for it's not like the highest level players go there, right? Like it's like, hey, it's another opportunity for some guys that maybe slip through the cracks, right? Well, I wasn't even on round 1 of Portsmouth. I was like a backup, like 2 or 3 guys that they wanted to come, backed out, and they called my coach and was like, hey, would Anthony Tolliver be willing to come? And he asked me, I was like, heck yeah. Like I need an opportunity. That's all I need. Like, 'cause I know I got game. Like I just need people to see that I have game that is not from college. Like I got game outside of this position, this role. And so went to Portsmouth and I shot the ball decent, like not great, but well enough to get people's attention. And then what I did that got people's attention, though, was I guarded multiple positions. So, I was guarding the 5s down there because that's what I did for 4 years. And I was guarding 4s, a little bit more mobile. Then I was out there guarding 3s, guys who were like, really good, played at high level, Big 12 and Big 10 type of schools. I was guarding them on the wing and staying in front of them and sliding my feet. And they were like, oh, okay. Got some versatility. And so that turned into, okay, I got all tournament team at Portsmouth, which then got me invited to Orlando. So Orlando was the pre-draft. That was the one. Like that's where all the big name players go. And, Kevin Durant and all those guys were there. And, it's funny. People always, oh man, did Kevin Durant really only, did he not get 185 really Benson? 0 times?
I can
confirm because I was right behind him. I saw the 185 come up and go hit and get stuck. Yes, not even once.
How many times do you do it, Tolliver?
22.
22.
Ooh.
Alec.
Yeah.
How many times did you do 225 at the combine?
Something
like about that number 22, 21,
was it 22?
Like that, 22, 21.
Yeah. So so anyways, going back to that, like I went there and I think I blew everybody away with, once again, expectations, right?
Yeah.
Expectations were low. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know how good of an athlete I was, whatever. I tested out to be the 15th best athlete out of everybody. And so, how, in NFL, that's way more important in the NFL combine than even the NBA, but it got people's attention because they're like, dang, like, because it's a full scale of athleticism, right? Like it's strength, it's conditioning, it's speed, it's quickness, it's all the things, right? As a full athlete. And so the 15th best athlete, and I led, like in our games, tied with one other guy. I led all the games in rebounding. So it was like, then from there, people were like, oh, hold up. This kid from this small school, right?
Yep.
That no one really knew about 3 months ago, all of a sudden, all tournament team at Portsmouth leads Orlando in rebounding and is the 15th best athlete, tested out as the 15th best athlete. Maybe we'll bring him in for a workout. So then I got 15 workouts from teams. I think I had 15 workouts in a span of 20 days pre-draft.
Yeah.
So it was just back-to-back, flying from Cleveland over to Charlotte down to Atlanta over here, Detroit to here, like just constant.
On that plane.
What? Just apologize for my own naivety, but like in an NBA workout, what's that look like? Is it you and coaches and then they have scouts, or are there multiple guys, or how are they set up?
I didn't do any individual workouts. It was always against other guys, which to me is always better because you get a chance to see people in competitive spaces. The guys who avoid competition are the guys who look really good in individual workouts, but aren't really competitors. Like my teammate, right? Great guy. Darko Milicic, right? Number 2 player in that draft with Melo and LeBron and them, right? LeBron was the only one picked ahead of him. Why? His individual workouts, bro, he looks like a monster. Like I'm talking like 7 foot, can pass, can dribble, can shoot. everything. Like everything that they saw, I saw it in person. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
this dude is unbelievable. But as soon as that competition hit, man, it's different, right?
A whole different thing. It's real live action. It's completely
Live
different.
action.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
That's how it is. I mean, you see, like, literally, you see guys all the time. They like so much talent, look real good, like in the
gym
with the shirts, just in street clothes, basically like that.
Yep.
And they get out there, it's like, dude, what happened?
What happened? Right. So, fast forward, man, you start competing. So I played, against all these guys from bigger schools, Big Baby Davis and all these different guys that played these big schools. And not only competed, but I in some cases, outplayed them.
Yeah.
And at that point, my very first workout was with the Wizards, and I went up against Josh McRoberts, who was another one of my future teammates. But I went against him, and he was supposed to be a projected top 10 pick. Bro,
in the business.
I worked him. I really worked him. I remember that as my very first NBA workout. I was like, bro, I'm about to bust whoever's over on the other side.
It don't matter.
But it was enough to get people's attention.
Yeah.
And it was like, dang, this kid might be an NBA player for real. I didn't get drafted, but it was enough to get people's attention. So I went from 6 months before that, no one who knew who I was, to 6 months after that, I would say pretty much everybody knew who I was. And now I was on the radar. Once I got on the radar, I got some opportunities, summer leagues and stuff like that. Summer league turned into, bam, but I had to go perform, right? It was not about just opportunity. It was about performance, and I had to outperform expectations. So,
yeah, no, for sure. So I guess as we keep kind of transitioning, obviously, like I said, this show is titled Beyond the Game, right? And we want to, try to focus on, things that, guys have done maybe while they were playing to earn money, away from the game, or what transition, how did they start to transition to think about life after playing their respective sports? Because as we all know, we have an end date of playing. That check not going to come in. That's not a stream of income that's going to last a lifetime, right? And
unless
we all got
LeBron or Steph or Michael Jordan.
I mean, yeah.
Or Otani. Yeah. Otani's going to be okay.
They can't afford to pay everybody like that. Right. They can't afford to do everybody like that. So, but for the majority of the league, you go back, you out here in the regular world, you got to live a regular life like everybody else, where, those guys, most of the people think, for us in the NFL anyway, most people think when you make it to the NFL, you all everybody's a millionaire and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, no, it don't work like that. We probably got
you talk about thousandaires. I got a lot of thousandaires in the locker room.
A lot of thousandaires. A lot of thousandaires. A whole lot of thousandaires. It's more thousandaire than it is millionaires. I can tell you that.
Oh yeah.
And Anthony, did you have any foundational knowledge of money? What was it like growing up? So when you got your shot in the D League, right? Because that's how you started in the NBA, coming out of Creighton eventually, right? It was to the D League.
Yes, straight to the D League. Yep.
Did you know what was your, I guess, knowledge base financially? Because we've talked to a lot of guys, and Alec is one of those guys. He's like, I got my signing bonus. He's like, I was like, where's the rest? I didn't even understand how taxes worked.
Yeah,
and
what I'm always at me. I don't know what this miscellaneous stuff is on this check. I owe the state what? Why do I owe them what? Did you got to pay taxes in every state I played? All this crazy stuff like that. So yeah, I was, like I say, it was coming out of college. I didn't have no knowledge of it, but curious to know where did you stand on that?
Yeah. So. In college, I got my degree in finance, so it was something that about my second year in college, because I went to Creighton actually pre-med. I was going to be a doctor. That was going to be my long-term play after I got done playing basketball, whatever that looked like. I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. I got a couple years in, and it was like, I think I have an opportunity here. I think I could go play basketball and make some really good money. Really good money, right? Like I wasn't sure before then, right? I don't know. I really wanted to be a doctor, but I was like, if I'm really trying to pursue this basketball thing like I want to, I can't dedicate that much time to studying. Like, let's just be real. Like, med, there's that time that you be in the gym, you got to be on the books. And so I was like, all right, well, what's kind of the first thing I think about whenever, when I think about playing in the NBA or playing overseas? It's like, well, you're going to be making good money. You got to know what to do with that money. You got to understand it. You got to understand it more. So I've always was good with math and with numbers. So I was like, I'll get a degree in finance. And it's funny looking back, there's a lot of people like, dang, you got a degree in finance? Like, that's hard. I'm like, yeah, but like, it just was natural for me. It wasn't anything like, it wasn't a stretch. It was something I was like, I can do this for sure. And I did it. 4 years, 3.5 GPA. Like, I knocked it out. Yeah. And so coming out of college and stuff like that, I definitely had a foundational understanding of what I needed to start doing. And really that started with investing. Like, I knew that money just sitting in the bank was doing no good. It's going backwards. Yeah. And so that concept by itself really changed the trajectory of what I was able to do over the following 17 years. It was, when I get money in, I got to get it to work, because my money is little minions. The little minions will make more money. Mm-hmm. And if you're just sitting them in the bank, they're doing nothing. They're not making more money. And so that's where the learning curve started with just changing that mindset over to not about stacking bread. It's about getting bread to work. And so,
where did you start, Anthony? How did you think about
income?
How did I start?
Yeah, from an investment standpoint, I mean, were you traditional equities when you got started? Did you have an advisor who was guiding you in the early days of your career?
Real estate. I started in real estate. Real estate was something that I saw my mom doing at a very young age. We'd go across town and pick up the rent check every, first week of every month, and didn't really understand it at that time. And as I got older, I was like, oh, that was passive income for her, right? Like it was something that she was able to just.
Oh, so your mom had they had a place already, and they was renting it out to somebody else.
Yeah, so it was her first house. Her and her her previous husband, they had bought a house, and and so when she bought the house where I grew up at across town, it was a situation where obviously she could have sold the other house, but they kept it and just rented it. And so, like I said, it was a seed that was planted at a very young age for me. Hey, that's what you do. Like, you need to own real estate. You need to own it so you can rent it out, make money, put some change in your pocket. And so that's the first thing I did. I got some bread from playing over in Germany and everything else. My first year, bought a house, bought an investment property, still own it to this day. Probably will never sell it. And just started the journey. And I needed that. I needed that to see, hey, put my money to work. Now it's like, hey, let me go do this again and again and again and again. And I was able to, get that journey started. But yeah, and then started in some equities and stuff like that shortly thereafter. Probably my second year is whenever I was finally getting enough money to have kind of the excess, where it was, I didn't have a specific place to put it. So I started to build a stock portfolio and kind of slowly do that. And as I got more exposure, I started doing other things. So obviously more real estate, but started to find and source deals myself. And that's whenever the fun really started.
Mm-hmm. So some of the guys we had on before, kind of the narrative that I've, kind of heard people say was that you don't have the time to go and do these things other than, it's the off season or something like that. But to me, it sounded like what you saying, that you when you got started, you were doing this while you were playing in season, whether it took 20 minutes out of the day or whatever to just read up on this or do this, kind of stuff like that. Is that like, you said like a true statement that you do have time to, invest into yourself and learn these type of things and get involved with it?
Absolutely.
And still play at a high level.
At the highest level for a very long time. The same concept I was talked about earlier with basketball and with sports is, hey, I found time to make time for what was important, which was a goal, which was to get better, which was to understand and learn the game and to perfect, right? To try to perfect the game, to try to perfect my shot. Same thing in business, same thing in real estate. It was, can I find 20, 30 minutes to read up on or watch this video to dive into this or whatever? Absolutely. Doesn't mean I can't still go have fun, still go hang out with my friends, still go to dinner, go do that. All that stuff can still be accomplished. You just got to be dedicated to what you're trying to accomplish. And so that's what I was, man. At my time in the hotel rooms and stuff like that, we got a lot of time and I was about to say to waste.
Careful now.
So why? Why waste it? Like, don't waste it. Like, I mean, hey, a lot of guys bring their video game systems, all stuff. Like, hey, that's all great. But don't tell me that you don't have time to learn a new skill.
You can't tell me that. You
can't tell me.
You can tell me that.
You're an expert Madden player, but you have no idea how to handle finances. Zero.
Not one clue.
Not one clue about your own money, but you are an expert Madden player. Tell me whose priorities are straight, right? Like, come on, bro. Like, this is your bread. Like, this is what
it don't make sense.
You worked your entire life for this. So your Madden, being able to beat your homeboy at Madden is more important than you being able to understand your finances. That's crazy. Right. And so
it's crazy.
You have time. You have time. You just have to make it. It has to be important enough to you to make the time to get the job done. And so that's what I did from the very beginning, man, was just dive into real estate, dive into investing, start to understand it so that whenever my advisors had conversations, they never had to dumb it down for me. Never. I would ask questions. And every once in a while, they'd say something like, what does that mean? Like, explain that to me. Because I want to know, because whenever you talk to me about my finances, I want to know exactly what's going on. I want to know exactly where you're putting it, how you're doing it, how you make money, right? Like, get everything.
That part.
All of it.
Yeah. No,
Anthony, did you have an advisor during your career that you still work with today? Or a lot of guys, it seems like they kind of had an experience, good, bad. They transitioned and then ultimately found that guy or gal who was their guy,
Yeah. So at the very beginning, I worked with a small firm out of LA, and it was really just kind of like a mom and pop shop. There's a husband and a wife. The wife kind of did all the bookkeeping and all the bill pay and all the kind of like that type of stuff, relationship building, and then the dad or the husband, he kind of did all the trading and all the the managing of the actual portfolio. I started there because I didn't have any money, so all these other advisors, if I wasn't with a big agent, I wasn't bringing a bunch of money or huge expectations, then they didn't want to sign me up. So they're like, so this small firm were just amazing. For my first year and a half, I didn't have enough money to really pay them, but they worked for me anyway, and so I've been forever grateful for them. But as I've grown and as my portfolio grew, I actually just outgrew their abilities, right? Like they're a smaller outfit, and that's totally fine. But I still have a great relationship with them, and basically consider them family. And as I grew, I just built a team of different advisors, and ultimately settled on. Now I have a kind of like a quarterback, or I say I'm the quarterback, but more like a GM. Somebody who helps me strategize and do, make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and long-term planning and estate planning and all that type of stuff. So I brought in a firm that helps me with all that. But I'm the quarterback of my ship. Like I literally run I make my own decisions. Ultimately, whenever there's
You're the CEO.
right? Like, hey, there's an investment. Like, thank you for your advice, advisor. I'm doing it. or hey, you should do this. I'm like, I'm not feeling that. I'm not doing it. So it's like advisors are advisors. They're to advise, not to make your choices. And that's what another thing I try to get guys to understand.
They're gonna give you the information.
Young
You take,
players,
you do what you
listen. Like, ultimately, if you don't have a clue, first of all, you need to get a clue. Second of all, when you get a clue, you need to make your own decisions. Like, get to the point where you're comfortable making your own decisions, because it's your ship, right? Take advice. That's what you get. That's what they're there for. Take advice. But ultimately, if you feel good about something and you want to accomplish something, do it, right? Like, it's your ship. You're the one who paid for, you're the one who earned the money. So do what you feel like you need to do. So yeah, that's my advice.
Did you have a number in your head? We talked about this with a number of guys where a lot of their advisors were like, hey, get me to a number, 5 million, 10 million, get me to a number and I can build enough recurring revenue off that to live forever. Right. So a couple of guys have said, hey, I thought about in my career very early on, I want to get to 5 million that investable assets, and somebody can kick 8 to 10% off of that. And, ostensibly, if I don't get that next contract, or I get injured, or I leave the league, or whatever may be, I have that reoccurring revenue of, let's call it at 10%. You get 500 grand a year that arguably you never have to touch the principal. You're just living off that. Did you think about it that way? Was there a number in your head that you were shooting for to get invested, and then a return off of that to create the lifestyle?
That strategy I didn't really adopt until more recently, because the way I constructed my portfolio is against the grain, way different than your typical advisor would advise, way different than your typical, like stockbroker portfolio guy would advise. My portfolio is actually built more like billionaires, and I'm not a billionaire whatsoever, but like, as far as the percentage of allocations and everything else, it's like private equity and private businesses. That's 70% of my portfolio, as opposed to the opposite for most people who follow the typical structure. So I've just always been a big believer in private business, private equity. I've started probably 10 to 15 businesses in my career. Walk
us through one of those, Anthony. Like, what does that look like?
What does that look like? Like, what are some of those businesses?
Yeah. Or how do you think about evaluating those private businesses?
Yeah. So the evaluating those private businesses is the hard part, right? Like, so to be able to do like a trackable, net worth and all that type of stuff, like it's kind of impossible for me, to tell you the complete truth. So I have so many different investments in different private businesses that aren't like, not a lot of public information, not a lot of information to like do valuations off of. But like,
there's
I've never had
an NAV
a number. Like, I don't care about I don't care about net worth. Like, that number does not mean anything to me. What means something to me is, hey, do I have money coming in that covers my expenses? And I do, right? So if I have money coming in that covers my expenses, and I have the ability to exit, periodically on private opportunities, then I'm good, right? And so that's kind of how I've always built my portfolio. It's been focused on the last 5 years or so. It's been more focused on cash flow, because I was always building. I was buying assets and getting assets, real estate assets, and stuff like that. But it wasn't about cash flow at that point. These last 5 years, getting closer to the end, not getting paychecks every 2 weeks, NBA paychecks and stuff like that. I was like, dang, I need to start building up this cash flow so that, my family's good. So I've adopted that whole kind of concept of, hey, let's get a certain amount of money with the stock portfolio, with my private, money that's being managed by somebody else. I've adopted that with my wife's wishes. Like, she's way more conservative than I am. With my wife's wishes and my advisor's wishes, of course, they want more money under their control. That's natural.
That's natural,
right?
Yeah.
But here's the deal: I'm cool with that because I've already accomplished the things that I've wanted to accomplish. That makes sense, right? Like,
Yep.
I'm cool with now attacking the other goals, right? Like their goals and my wife's goals, because I've already done the things that I've wanted to do and set out to do. So now I look at it, I'm about to have the best of both worlds, because as I build that up over time, I have the portfolio that I can kind of sit back and see what happens over the next 10, 15 years of exits and payouts and all these different things, that how I wanted to construct it while building that piece up. So,
Yeah.
Talk to me about cash flow. So right now, how do you target investment opportunities? What are you chasing? Is there a percentage? And I guess in your investment thesis around, hey, I need this to look at, depending on where I am in the risk spectrum, between 8 and 10%, 10 and 15, 4 to 6. Like, how do you think about where investments fit in that spectrum of cash flow?
As far as like a percentage, I would say now, so I've been what I call myself as a dabbler, right? Like, so when I get exposed to something and they're like, maybe it's outsized returns, or there's, opportunity, like 4 to 6% doesn't even move the needle for me. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, it just doesn't. Like, and it's not because there's nothing wrong with 4 to 6%. It's just that, like, I get, like, that's my expectations for my stock portfolio, right? It's like 4 to 6%. Like, that's kind of like, to me, in a
like, I'm already doing that
bucket. Like, I can get that kind of without like thinking about it, because that's what I can get from but privately, like, things that I look at, hey, if it's double digits, okay, cool. Like, let's talk. And then if it's higher double digits, then let's really talk. Let's really dive in, because what is this? So I've just been able to throw darts at different things over the years of, hey, different, like, outside the box. I call it alternative investments, right?
Mm-hmm.
The highest performing thing in my portfolio over the past 3 years is something that my advisor told me. It said, I wouldn't advise to do this. I would not advise you to do this. I was like, okay,
what was
cool.
it?
Thanks for your advice, but I'm doing it. And guess what?
At the end of the day,
4 years later, it has outperformed my entire stock portfolio. It has outperformed my real estate portfolio. It has outperformed every single other asset that I have.
What is it, Anthony? Walk us through what it is.
So it's currency trading. So I have a partner that I met, friend of a friend, grew up with a guy, started doing Forex trading, kind of developed a system, has an algorithm. He's like, man, he's been doing really well. And he's like, these are what the type of percentages that he's been making. I'm like, bro, that sounds crazy, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, maybe 5%, maybe 10% every quarter. Like, I'm like, okay. My friend put in, he saw a couple quarters go by and saw double-digit returns on one of them. I said, let me go ahead and throw a couple dollars. Let me go ahead and see what they
Why you at it?
Right?
You know what?
Because,
go ahead.
Like,
hey, take this.
Right. Like, and here's the deal. I'm like, the risk. Okay, when I first got in, I viewed it as risky, right? Like, it's like, oh, if he's currency trading and they're making really high returns, what does everybody say? High risk, high reward, right? Everybody talks about that. So what do? I'm not about to go throw $2 million at it. I threw $50K, right? $50K hits and it meets expectation. Is it going to change my life? No, but it gives me an opportunity to get in and try it out. Well, for me, it took, hey, first quarter I went in, it's 9%. I was like, bruh, that's 3% a month. I said, you can get another 50K for that, right? And so over time, I built that portfolio to over 7 figures, right? Between returns and me adding money to it, because I'm like, what the heck? Like, why would I go over here for 4 to 6% if I'm getting 20+% over here? So to me, it was a no-brainer, and I just kept building. And I'm still building that portfolio because it's performing. So, so those are the types of things where, but I've tried a few other things that didn't work as well, right? But even then, it's like, hey, if you find 1 or 2 of these types of things, and all of a sudden, that 4 to 6% does not look very attractive anymore. You got stuff that's shelling off 20 plus, and you're not going to have 20 of those, but you don't need 20 of those. You just need a couple, maybe 1 or 2. But I'll never go where all my portfolio is over there, because that's just not how I roll, right? Like it becomes a tool, right? That it helps to offset whatever. Like I did a life insurance policy, and it requires collateral. Well, I just use this investment tool to perform at a level. It's like, okay, well, conservatively, if it does 15%, well, it's still going to cover what I need to cover for this collateral for my life insurance. So now those are the games I start playing, right? Like it's not about like, oh, well, I'm good. I've got covered. My bills are covered. Like everything that I have coming in, my bills are covered. So outside of that, how do I start leveraging what I have access to make sure I'm building this portfolio? And that's what I've been doing. That's the game I play now.
Worst deal you've ever done, Anthony? We've talked to a lot of guys about this. Tell us the story. It usually starts with what you just said. A friend of a friend told me that I should get involved. Give us the story that you wish you had it back.
Right. There's one that I'm currently still in, that the story's still to be told, and it's not a bad deal. I just went too heavy in it, right? Like I just cut too big of a check in it, but these things that I've learned over the past 17 years, all I look at it as is, man, what I know now, for the next 20 years, I'm about to be a killer in the investment game, because I know what to do. Like I know more of what to do now, right? Like I know, like I have access to certain tools like that are getting outsized returns. And I don't even view as risky anymore, because it's been 4 straight years of unbelievable returns. So, hey, I don't even view that as risky anymore, right? So I have certain tools that are doing really well. I have certain like guidelines now that I follow that, hey, even if I invest in something that doesn't do as well, guess what? Like I'm not going to be in a position to lose a bunch of money, right? So it's all about overall, what does your portfolio do over time? As long as it continues to stack, then you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, the worst deal is one that it was actually not a friend of a friend. It was just a guy I met, had a good relationship with, or a decent relationship with. It happened to be in the year that I was making the most money that I'd ever made. And so I was really active investing. And, he's like, oh man, I got this trash business I'm about to start. And, I've been doing it for 5 years. I've been screwed over multiple times by these people, that person, blah, blah, blah. I want to start my own thing. I got these contracts that I'm working on. Would love to have you partner. I was like, good kid. I was like, all right, cool. Let's do it. And long story short, it's just expectations. His personality, his intentions, I think were great. He just was a terrible businessman, right? Like just didn't know how to run a business. And so, I made an investment, I put more money in, I'll bail him out here. And then I look up, I'm like $300,000+ later, it's like nothing to show for it, and I'm like, dang, like, well, I mean, I learned from it, right? Like I try to give the kid.
It wasn't like very detrimental to you either.
No, I mean, ultimately, bro, it didn't hurt nothing, but it just, at the end of the day,
I just had to eat that.
Yeah, I did just had to write it off, right? And it
Yeah.
sucked because I don't like losing money ever. But at the end of the day, I tried to do the right thing. I thought that was the right thing. He's a good
Yeah.
kid, young kid. I was like, man, this could literally change his entire life. Just that, man, whenever man, I look at it like this, he wasn't ready, right? God did not allow that situation to prosper because it might have ruined his life. Whereas like
Yeah.
I view it as it could have helped him, it might have done the opposite. So that's
Mhm.
I'm a believer, man. So like, so I'm big on my faith. So in that situation, I don't even view that as like an L, like because I'm like, you know what? Like yeah, I lost money, but like at the end of the day, bro, like it's all under God's control. And since it didn't work out, that just meant it wasn't his plan.
It wasn't supposed to
It
be.
wasn't supposed to be because he had all the opportunities, he had all the money, he had the capital, he had the backing, he had the trucks. I bought trucks. Like I did everything, bro. Like it was,
Yeah.
it was laid out. It just didn't work out.
It wasn't meant to
And
be.
I'm like, all right, but that's probably the biggest L from a financial standpoint. But I've had a few.
Was there a
but I've
takeaway?
also
Was there a takeaway just what you would have done differently on the due diligence side up front to maybe minimize the risk that you put yourself in?
I would have probably brought in an outside party to help manage, and just paid for that person to manage because he knew how to throw trash. He knew how to manage logistics on the trash side. But he just didn't know how to do the business side. And
Run a
I
business.
didn't do, and also I didn't do enough due diligence on that, right? I didn't like ask him enough questions to like really find out. Do you know how to run the business? I know you know how to
It's
throw.
completely different.
I know you know how to get trash up, right? Ramirez, you need to go over there. You need to go over here. Like logistically, he was on point, but on the back end, dealing with contracts, dealing with this, dealing with that, like he just didn't have that, right? So that's on me though. Like I take extreme ownership on that. Like it's on me for not doing the due diligence and not doing the support work that needed to be done to have that happen. So
What I
most
found,
definitely.
Anthony, too, though, is in your losses is where you learn the most, right?
yep.
Because you're not going to make those same mistakes again, and it's an expensive loss, right? You throw $300,000 out the window, but those are the opportunities that you take the most experience out of for, like you said, the next 20 years. You're going to go out
Yep.
the next 20 years. You're not going to make that mistake again.
Nope, I'm not. Yep, not at all.
No, most definitely. Now, we won't take up too much more of your time, but I did have a question too. I guess kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about, are you guys still, I've seen y'all was in that starting five thing, and you, Malcolm, I forgot the
There's
other
a bunch of
guy.
guys. You talking about the water projects?
Yeah. So, and y'all go and build wells, or is that still actively going? And
Yeah. So we did the starting five whenever I was still active playing ball.
Yeah.
The starting five, we did some initiatives with the teams and would have hey, for every 3-pointer, will you pledge $1 or will you pledge $5 for water wells in Africa and stuff like that. So we had a bunch of different initiatives like that. Now that I'm out, I actually joined that organization, World Serve.
Okay.
I'm the co-chair of the board now. Very, very much so involved, something I champion a lot. Me and my wife, we went over to Africa a couple summers ago and saw one of the wells that we sponsored, and really was a game changer for me and us.
It's called World Serve.
World Serve International. Yeah, that's the name of the organization. But yeah, man, we do water wells. Now we do empowered schools. So we provide tablets for school, for classrooms. We build courts. Ultimately, it's a basketball court, but they use it for all kinds of different things. They use it for school assemblies. They use it for soccer. They use it for all these different things. Do drip irrigation, so they start growing their own food. A bunch of really, really cool initiatives, but it all really is geared towards providing clean water, right? Clean water is the foundation. And then for us, beyond that is, like I said, we're men and women of faith. And so we utilize that opportunity to tell people about why we do this and, tell people about our why essentially. And so it's been a great opportunity, man. It's been a really fun initiative, and it's something that I plan on doing. I don't see an end to it. I think it's something I'll be championing and getting behind for the rest of my life.
Awesome, Dad.
Fills your soul, Anthony. Gotta have something to fill your soul.
Absolutely.
Hey, let's finish with this. I love to put this question to guests. So 21-year-old Anthony, or maybe not 21, because 21-year-old Anthony seemed like he was pretty squared away.
Man, I'll tell you, 5-year-old Anthony was squared away. He already told you he was ahead of his years.
That's right. Well, maybe you should have told 21-year-old Kris, because 21-year-old Kris wasn't squared away at all. So what would you tell me or somebody listening to this podcast who potentially is, coming up behind you? Similar story to you or Alec, coming into the league. What are kind of the themes you wish you understood, or you wish guys like me understood when I was 21 that would have made such an impact, like you said, that next 17 years?
Kind of what I said earlier. There's a few things. One of the things I would say earlier was know what's going on with your finances. Like, understand, start to learn and understand how this stuff works. Because ultimately you are in charge. So when they start stealing, they start stealing. When that happens, of course you blame the people who steal, but also blame the people who get stolen from. And it's because it's hard to steal from somebody if they know what's going on, right? Really, it'd be really hard for my advisors to steal from me because, where'd that money go? These guys are getting, I've heard stories of guys getting sold 7 to 70. I've heard some 7 stories. I've heard some $70 million being gone. And it's how does $70 million get stolen from you and you don't notice, right? So that's kind of some people are like, oh, it's boring. Okay, cool. But it's your bread. So if you can think it's boring, but at least understand it to where you can check your own stuff, check your own accounts and see the activity, know what's going on. All right, that's kind of number one. Number two is get life insurance. It's something that I feel like first of all, it's way cheaper when you're younger, a lot easier to get. As you get older, you have more complications. But there's too many guys that just ignore that. And it's such a huge tool for generational wealth. So something that I didn't really understand until I got older. And it's something I really feel really passionate about now. Currently working on a deal with the NBPA, trying to get life insurance for every player. Currently, right now, I am. So I feel super passionate about that. And I feel like guys need to make sure that they take care of that. Another thing is start investing into future cash flow. You don't really know when you're going to be done, right? So I would just start now, because by the time you're done, you could potentially maybe not replicate the NBA or the NFL paycheck, but probably get pretty close. If you have a long enough period of time to build cash flow, you're going to do pretty well. And having residual money come in is one of the best things ever.
Nothing like it.
Nothing like
it's on time.
Even to this day, every time I get a check, bro, I'm like, yes.
It just smile a little bit. It just smile just a little bit.
Every time. I don't care if it's I did an investment with Grant Cardone. I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago, and it was just $100,000 into one of his funds. And every month, though, like clockwork, I get $600, and every time I'm like, yes, I love it, right? Now that's probably one of the smallest checks I get, but every time I see it, every time. I love it. Right. So that would be if I had a regret in my career, it'd probably be that I didn't start investing in cash flow investments earlier. That'd be probably the only thing.
Definitely.
Good wisdom.
Man, we appreciate your time coming on, and definitely it was inspired and encouraged by your story and just your knowledge of everything. And hopefully we can continue to have more people like you on and grow this even more. Like I said, appreciate it again.
Of course, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on, and hope somebody listening in get something out of it. Hopefully get inspired in some way, shape, or form to act, because that's what it's all about, man. It's just you listen to things. If they're listening to a podcast like this, at least that probably means that they're trying to gain some knowledge, right? They're trying to gain
some type of knowledge.
Spend some time into their stuff. So to me, like, that's already a step in the right direction. But man, hopefully something I said sparked something in a person or two or 1,000. I don't know, but hopefully it can help inspire somebody to take action and take ownership. So I appreciate you guys.
Most definitely. Before we go though, where can we, like, if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, I guess it's Instagram, whatever, Twitter or X or LinkedIn, where can they find you?
It's still Twitter, bro. You don't have to call it X.
Don't tell Elon that.
Yeah, A Tolliver 44 is my Twitter /X. It's also my Instagram, and then Facebook is just Anthony Lamar Tolliver, just my name. That's kind of the spaces I frequent the most. I have a LinkedIn as well, just under my name as well. On the business side, I do a little bit more business posting on that side. I'm not as active on LinkedIn, but definitely on Instagram a lot. But A Tolliver 44 is my moniker.
A Tolliver 44, y'all heard it.
Thanks, Anthony.
44 too. It's a good number.
Of course. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Game. Please like, subscribe, comment on your favorite platform. It helps others find the show.